Get ready for the Fantasy Football Friends podcast, hosted by Carter McCracken and Max Lampkin.
I guess we got to start with probably the most disappointing news of the weekend.
Especially for me.
And one of the reasons that we hate fantasy, but love it as well, because now it's time to adapt. Now it's time to get better because of it.
Indeed it is. Guys,
Nick
you know
Chubb.
where we're going. Yep. Nick Chubb out for the season. Saw the devastating injury. Minka Fitzpatrick laid the hit on him. Knee, whatever it is. I saw he already had surgery. I don't even know what the injury is. Probably ACL, if not multiple ligaments.
I think they just said he tore like a bunch of stuff.
It was bad. But guys, like Carter said, got to be able to adapt. I fortunately drafted for this. I get Alvin Kamara back when he comes off of his suspension. I already have Gibbs, although I have Najee. Najee has not been great. Obviously, we'll get into him more when we go over that game. But guys, either, through trade, through someone you have on your bench, or waiver wires, which we will get to also, you got to be able to adapt, got to figure out where to pivot to. Can't stick around on it for too long, but hope Nick Chubb recovers. Probably the best pure running back in the game. Him and McCaffrey are pretty much neck and neck, but Chubb, dude, he had 62 yards at that moment and was most likely going to get that goal line score. So unfortunate, but Nick Chubb, heal up if you ever see this.
Yeah.
Hoping the best for you, man. You're a great player to watch, just as a fan of football. So definitely devastating to the football community as a whole.
Right. Good guy, too.
Yeah.
Very good guy.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to the next running back, Saquon Barkley. When I saw that, I thought that was more than what it turned out to be.
I put it in the chat that we got Barkley big injured right now because he looked devastated.
It was like they got him at his ankles, which is what he hurt, and then he just folded all the I was like, oh my! I watched it live too.
He twisted and folded.
Yeah, I was like, dude, there's no way that's any hope there. But Brian Dable has not ruled him out on a short week against San Fran, which I think is just kind of like a coaching tactic. We don't want them, but it's at the end of the day, you're playing San Fran. If I'm Barkley, I'm sitting out. I'm not playing that game. He's probably going to be out. I'd say at least 2 weeks. There's
easily.
Yeah.
2. I'd say 3 is probably what you're looking at.
I don't know when their bye is. If they have an early bye, I'd probably sit. If they have a week 5 or week 6 bye, might want to sit out till then. Just really sucks for the running back position. Obviously, we're gonna get into more running backs.
Week 13.
Okay, so yeah, late one.
That.
So he's gonna. We'll have to see. But again, guys, got to be able to pivot. Hopefully, you have a handcuff from another team, or you're in a good waiver position. Maybe you lost this week, got a better waiver position. Would be my hopes. Again, just got to be able to pivot, turn to your next move.
Yeah, so I guess we can just talk about this. Barkley's out, Chubb's out. Jerome Ford's going to be a beast.
Jerome Ford looked great.
I think that even if they pick up someone like Akers,
a lot of talk about Kareem Hunt signing with them, actually.
Even Kareem Hunt, the reason they let go of Kareem Hunt, I think a big part of that was knowing that Jerome Ford was going to be their guy.
Right.
And Kareem Hunt would be kind of a backup, just kind of basically the same role he was last year. And that was pretty ineffective. So I think Jerome Ford's actually going to be a beast down the line. He gets work in the passing game too. So.
I agree. Even that week 1 game, he had 15 carries. So he still had a workload 15 carries, dude. That's no joke.
Right.
That's a substantial role. But great. Yeah, he's a great pickup. If he's not already rostered in your league, certainly arguably number 1 waiver wire. I think fresh waiver wire coming into the week.
Unless Puka's not picked up.
Yeah, unless someone like Puka or Nico Collins aren't picked up in your league right now. But yeah, Barkley out, guys. Carter and I talked about this earlier, not looking to pick up Matt Breida, especially going against San Fran this week. Gary Brightwell got more of the touches once Barkley went out. Breida ended the game with only 1 touch for 5 yards. So not looking to get any of those Giants running backs. Tough matchup against San Fran. I'm hoping you have better options, better waivers to go after versus those guys.
Something that's worth talking about, though. After the San Fran game, they got easy game at Seattle and then an easy game at Miami. So if we're thinking that Saquon's
Okay.
out for 3 weeks, it's going to be tempting to pick up these guys.
Right.
I'd
I mean, they'll get work. There's no doubt about that.
right.
So
If you're like me and you're really in a crunch,
we'll get to that.
I mean, I'm not looking to pick them up by any means.
Right.
I'm actually going to avoid them at all costs. But they're going to get volume against a bad Seattle team and a bad Miami run defense. So, or not a bad Seattle team, sorry. A bad Seattle run defense, a bad Dolphins run defense.
Yeah.
Interesting position.
Not on my radar personally.
Yeah.
Even in
probably
those
the lower end of
matchups.
the waiver wire pickups.
Right.
For this, yeah.
So Jamal Williams out with a hamstring for the foreseeable future. Plays well to Tony Jones, who we saw score 2 touchdowns, and Kendre Miller, if he comes back, that's still kind of to be seen. He seems to get injured every week, but we know Kamara's on the rise here. Coming week 4, he will be back in. I think he's going to explode, but again, guys, just got to be able to pivot, play the game. Hopefully, you drafted for it. Moving to someone in this Thursday night game, Brandon Ayuk. Saw him get hurt on that first drive for the 49ers. Shoulder injury. He continued the whole game, which is encouraging. Usually if a guy gets hurt and it's something substantial, he'll come out. But he was right back in, played the entire rest of the game. Obviously didn't see a real workload, so kind of looking to go away from him. Debo exploded. We'll talk about that. So Ayuk, guys. So I'm an Ayuk owner in both my leagues. Not real confident in him heading into this week, even though he does have a soft matchup against the Giants. I don't like playing injured guys on short weeks. He was limited today in practice, which was better than what he was forecasted for on Monday, which was to not practice. So if he's a full go tomorrow, I don't have an issue playing him. Considering the guys I have in my depth roles, though, I'm not going to be playing him. I don't like taking that chance, murky waters with the injury. But big boost to Debo.
Right, big boost to Debo, and then also I think Kittle could be in for a good week as well.
Right.
I would try to stay away from Ayuk this week, but certainly no problem playing him.
Yeah. So Brandon Cooks, guys, trending towards playing. I was having some trouble with his knee, so that's good. CeeDee Lamb, we saw 8 up against the Jets, but Brandon Cooks, guys, I'm not looking to get him in my lineup at this moment. Want to see what he does, how he gets back into that offense, what touches look like. CeeDee's obviously the guy, so just bringing that to you.
I'd like to see what happens when Dallas plays a close game, too.
Same.
Everyone's talking about them being Super Bowl favorites, yada, yada. They went
Yeah.
against the Giants and the Jets.
Jets.
Congratulations.
All right. So DK, guys, day-to-day with ribs, had a solid game against the Lions. DK is a tough guy. Ribs can be kind of worrisome, but as a receiver, you're not taking as many shots as a running back.
Yeah.
Not too worried about him. Big guy, tough guy. Sure, he'll have some protection on him during the game. Eckler, no timeline right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen anything else. No timeline. I'm not really sure what that means come Sunday. Obviously, you'll have to see his practice schedule, what he does, his level of activity.
That's something to monitor. And also, no timeline could mean, I don't know if that's out for an indefinite amount of time. It's definitely different because usually they just say out for an indefinite amount of time. No timeline, I think, could mean any week he comes back. He could be good to go. He's another tough guy.
Yeah. We've seen him play before.
Yeah, he plays injured all the time, and each time he's out there, plays the same exact way. So you can expect big things if he's out there. But
I mean, Josh Kelly's the guy to go get.
Just weird.
If he's still on your waivers.
Oh,
Obviously didn't have a great game against the Titans, but the Titans are arguably a top 5 run defense in the league.
We had talked about that too, that Josh Kelly was not a great play last week.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll get to that. As a Chargers fan. Zay Jones, guys, day-to-day for the Jaguars. Hurt his knee. Not huge fantasy implications, but if he is out, obviously big boost to Kirk, Ridley, Ingram. Zay Jones is more of a fringe flex play to me. Not much else there.
Yeah, Zay Jones is, as I've said before, he's going to be someone that, along with Christian Kirk, is kind of vying for that second, wide receiver role on a week-to-week basis. I think Kirk's the more talented guy there. Probably will see less snaps than Zay Jones. So if he's a little bit injured, he's already on that flex position. So
Roll Kirk.
stay away from him.
So David Montgomery,
sure.
guys, hurt his thigh, a thigh bruise sort of thing going on. Day to day was kind of feared to be week to week at first, but good thing day to day for Monty owners. Could play this week. Might see an uptick for Gibbs. Hopefully, hopefully he gets touches finally. Very dynamic guy, but Monty, nonetheless, great, pound back type of guy. Give the ball, get 3-4 yards. Saw him get the touchdown again. So Monty owners, keep an eye on that. Not huge news. Odell hurt his ankle day-to-day also. Zay Flowers is the clear number one in that offense to me, although Odell did have a good start to his week against the Bengals, but I mean, he's not someone I'm looking to be in lineups right now.
Yeah, someone that is worth mentioning because Montgomery is out is Craig Reynolds. He kind of stepped into that role. Once Montgomery went out, he saw all the work that Montgomery usually sees. Right. Now, if that's just they had a game plan, they want to stick to it. Next week, it's going to be more Jahmyr Gibbs. Or if they go kind of like to a 50-50 split, I think we see something like that, whereas Montgomery was getting more of like 60-65% of snaps. I think it could go to Craig Reynolds stays in that role, but it's a lesser, percentage of that.
I agree.
I wouldn't look to pick him up exactly and play him right away. As you said, Monty's still day to day, so at best you're getting like 1 week out of him. So it's really not worth a waiver.
Agreed. So another small mention: Darnell Mooney avoids big injury to his knee, sustained that in the Tampa Bay game. DJ Moore looked great, but Mooney nonetheless, no big injury. Saw him have a good week 1, so he's a guy that's kind of on lower radar in terms of where he is on your bench. Not a guy you're looking to get in your lineup necessarily, but someone that has boom potential. Logan Thomas, concussion. Keep an eye on him. I'd be surprised if he plays. Dude, it was serious. Like, it was straight on collision. He scored the touchdown, though. So, shout out to Logan, my guy.
He had a good fantasy output.
Yeah, because he scored the touchdown. But concussion, really rough hit. Hope he's good. Anthony Richardson, saw him going off on the Texans this past week and then sustained a concussion on that second touchdown run, slammed right on his head. Keep an eye on him also if he's your starting quarterback. He's in for a big fantasy year.
Yeah.
As long as he stays healthy, guys, if he is your quarterback, if he's healthy, you're playing him almost, I want to say, regardless of matchup, just because of his rushing ability. Like,
yeah, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. I think it was the first 2 drives. It might have been the first 3.
Dude, they were up big early. I know that. So
once him and Taylor get going, if Taylor is to come back, dude, that's going to be a mad rushing attack.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, guys, that's all the news we have for you right now. Going to touch on some tidbits throughout this game-by-game walkthrough, just reviewing Sunday and Monday's games. So, hopping into it, we got Green Bay visiting. First, our weekly predictions from last week.
Yep.
Carter and I were both 11-5. The only 2 games we differed on, Chicago and Tampa Bay. Carter was correct on that outcome. And Washington and Denver. Carter flipped his pick later in the week. Got to hold him accountable.
On camera, I'm good, yeah. So just stick with the camera always.
So obviously I went with Washington, as you can see. Came out on top, fortunately. Y'all can rag me about the pass interference or the non-pass interference call later. But both came out 11-5 for the week. So I'm 21-11 on the season. Carter's 18-4, guys. So we're both looking above 500, man. Looking good there. But jumping into it, Green Bay visiting Atlanta. Atlanta came out on top. Packers sputtered out in that last quarter, really the whole second half.
Yeah.
I saw a stat, last 3 drives, 11 yards gained total or something like that in their last 3 drives.
Yeah, they got shut down.
Yeah, that was because they were up 24-12.
Yeah.
And Love again, 3 touchdowns, 151 yards. Looked good. Could not get anything going on those last few drives, though.
I don't know what to think about Love long term. 2 games straight of 3+ touchdowns. I don't think that happens to your average Joe. Like, he's playing well.
Agreed.
That touchdown to Jaden Reed he had, that's not a touchdown he created. That was
right. That's just a
missed tackle and open space. I don't think you see that recreated much. However,
I mean, he's doing it.
He's doing it.
He's doing it, you know?
He's doing it on low attempts.
Right.
Like
he's
low
doing it
completions.
it's very efficient.
It's coming like 1 out of every 5 or 6 throws
his
right
touchdown
now.
percentage is like 11% right now, which is insane. He's leading the league.
Yeah. If he can, like, I don't know. I think he's still a good play.
I think he's a great streaming option. Like, he's not your QB1. He's not the guy that you're like setting in there to be your QB1. To me, I think he's just a great streaming option if you need someone. Now, with that being said, going against New Orleans this upcoming week is going to be a real test because you and I are both huge fans of that defense.
Yeah.
Have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a real interesting game in Green Bay. So that's a game I'm going to be excited to see. I think that's going to be
that's one of the more high-powered matchups.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game to watch. But moving off of him, A.J. Dillon was very underwhelming this week, guys. If you started him, you probably did with Aaron Jones being out, thought he was going to get higher output. Did see 15 carries, saw 15 of the 21. No one else had more than 3. So obviously dominated the workload. Only 55 yards for a 3.7 output and 1 target, had the reception for 8 yards. So you and I were just talking about this before we went on camera. He's just not like a breakaway, make something happen type of guy. He's a straight line runner. He's going to run over you. He's going to get 3 to 4 yards. He just never really breaks out for those big plays.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the breakaway speed.
Yeah.
He has the build to just try to run you over.
Yeah, he's just, I mean,
and
a solid back.
I think at this point in his career, we know what we're going to, like, we don't expect those big games like we did earlier. In
so
his career.
if he had this output and then got the touchdown, then you're like, okay, you can live with that. But when he doesn't score a touchdown, it's going to be rough.
Right.
That's who he is.
Yeah. Yep.
Underwhelming receiving game from, unless you started Jaden Reed, obviously he led the pack with 8 targets, dude. He's a guy that I like coming into the season as a real deep sleeper. I think he should, I don't like starting him. The only guy I really like getting in your lineup is Dobbs right now.
Right.
Even though Dobbs only 3 targets, 2 receptions, 30 yards, so he did not have a great game if you were flexing him. It's kind of like we're going to see, and we talked about this going into the season, it's going to be more of a spread out, like in terms of volume. Everyone's going to see 4 or 5 targets somewhere in there. And you and I were both talking. We're excited to see this offense when Watson comes back too.
Right.
So we haven't even seen this offense at full form with Aaron Jones also. So those 2 variables are going to be very interesting to see.
It's just when Watson comes back, I think he becomes the big play guy, whereas we see Jaden Reed in that position right now. So as you're saying, I think that Dobbs and Watson are the 2 guys that you're going to be starting.
Right. So that's also something interesting for Jordan Love's outlook too season long is like when you get Jones and Dillon back there and then you got Watson, Dobbs, and Reed with Musgrave at tight end, like
he's got his weapons.
Right. And Jordan Love's only sustained 2 sacks in 2 games. So like that's a very low sack rate. Whether that's obviously first and foremost credit goes to the offensive line, but sacks are also a quarterback stat too. Like Russell Wilson's a guy that comes to my mind. He creates a lot of sacks for himself.
Yeah.
So like that's a very good thing for his outlook this season too. Because if you can keep a young quarterback from being pressured, you're gonna get good results.
And Bakhtiari still with that knee stuff. So if he can even come back, that helps you even more. Like,
and their guard, Elton Jenkins, also got hurt, left the game. So interesting. But
it is interesting that the mobility can hurt and help the quarterback.
Right.
It's just how you use it. He seems to be using it well.
Yeah. So Desmond Ridder, guys, he had a solid game. 237 yards, saw 32 passing attempts, so higher than usual for Desmond Ridder. 1 touchdown and a pick, and also had 39 yards and a touchdown with his legs. So solid output from him. Nothing spectacular, but good nonetheless if you were playing him. A guy, he had, 23 points this week. So, solid start if you were having to start him. I don't know why you would have been.
Right.
But looked solid nonetheless, nothing crazy. But Bijan, dude, watching him run is like magic.
Electric.
I love watching.
He might be the best. Now that Chubb's out, I think he might be the best.
Him and McCaffrey.
CMC,
Yeah.
They're probably the best runners.
Dude, watching him run, just cut, slice, juke, sidestep, hop step, explode, like nothing he can't do on the field. It's great to see. I mean, 19 carries, guys, 4 target, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 48 yards, 124 on the ground. Didn't even see a touchdown, but he didn't need it. So,
Right.
I mean, he's everything we thought. Very exciting stuff.
He's third right now in rushing leader odds.
He's great. He's great. Tyler Algier, 16 carries, only saw 48 yards, guys. Not as efficient or fortunate in the red zone area this week. Still a back that, honestly, you can look to flex play week to week. Not your first guy you're looking to put in there, but if you're in a crunch, not a guy I'm opposed to throwing in there just because of the touchdown capability, and we know the rushing workload in that offense.
Yeah, the rushes are going to be there. So
I mean, he was only 3 behind him.
Yeah, he played on 44% of snaps.
Right. And when he's in, he's going to,
he's going to see some carries.
Drake London, big bounce back week. 6 receptions on 7 targets, 67 yards, found pay dirt. Big bounce back week for my guy, Drake London, who I drafted in the 5th round. Put up a stinker last week. So really happy to see that. Saw the targets finally. Kyle Pitts, 2 receptions, 15 yards on 5 targets.
You can go ahead and drop him.
I don't honestly, but it's sad because people can't because of the draft capital that they invested in him and what they're expecting. So it's like you can't do it. Even Jonnu Smith had 4 receptions and 47 yards, and he's the backup tight end.
I drop him regardless. It's the season is here now. The draft is over. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's who is going to be good, who is going to produce points. And at this point, Kyle Pitts is not going to be the guy, and there's just not enough to go around passing wise to even consider Pitts, in my opinion. I think you can literally go ahead and drop him.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Kyle Pitts or Jake Ferguson on a random week?
Jake Ferguson. Ferguson looks great, dude. I'm pretty sure he leads the NFL in red zone targets.
Right. Would you rather have Kyle Pitts or
Sam Laporta?
Any of the waiver wire guys we talk about? He's waiver wire worthy.
I know, he is. He really is. It's crazy to say.
It's not. He was a tight end 31 last year.
It's just crazy because it's of everyone expects him to be, but in reality, he's just not right now on that offense.
I didn't expect it. I'll tell you that much.
I know. I don't know. It's weird. 4th overall pick 2 years ago.
Mega talent, bad situation.
Yeah, mega talent, exactly. So that's it for that game, guys. Atlanta came out on top, 25-24, so Carter and I both got that one wrong. But good game, nonetheless. Saw some solid fantasy outputs.
Falcons, I wanted to mention this. Mm-hmm. Falcons are a team. I thought that you just start Green Bay and they'll be fine. Right. Falcons are a good team this year. I think that they keep the ball a bunch.
They control the clock. That's
really
their game. That's what they have to do.
Yeah, and they're playing it to a T right now. So I don't think that Falcons are exactly a streaming option for defenses until we see something different because they've been solid.
So moving to Buffalo, guys, in a stomp against the Raiders, 38-10. Things just did not look good. Jimmy G, nothing notable, 185, touchdown, 2 picks. My bust of the week at running back, Josh Jacobs. I'm going to say I called it. Ended with negative rushing yards.
Yeah.
Saw 5 receptions for 51 yards, though, so somewhat saved his day with that on 6 targets. Devontae Adams, though, big game. Know who he is. 6 receptions, 84 yards, touchdown on 8 targets. Paced the team in all categories. Great game out of him. Did leave with a concussion, though, so something to keep an eye on if you're a Devontae owner. He's looking good, though. Reports were good, so I don't think he'll miss this week because of concussion. So if you're a Devontae owner, that's a great thing to hear. Also, Jacoby Myers is probably coming back this week, which should open up that offense a little more. No one else notable, guys, on that offense. Just poor matchup all around. Nothing much to expect. That's why Josh Jacobs was my bust. I mean, you even saw Zamir White get 4 carries for 22 yards. But they were playing a negative game script too, so I think Jacobs, he plays Pittsburgh, and we've seen Pittsburgh be vulnerable against the run. So it'll be a good makeup game for him this upcoming week.
Albeit against a great San Francisco line and a great Cleveland Browns line.
Right.
I think that Pittsburgh's defense against the run will be better.
That's true.
In later weeks, and I think the Raiders might be one of those equalizers that we can really see where they're at.
Right. On Buffalo side of things, though. Josh Allen with a big bounce back week. 274 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Oh.
Only 3 carries, which is what I like to see because I think he just exposes himself too much. and that's a sign that I feel like he's playing more controlled. Obviously against the poor Raiders defense, though, where he kind of had all day to sit in the pocket. But good game. That's what you want to see against your superstars against poor defenses, though. So very good output from him. Rushing, though, my sleeper of the week at running back, James Cook, baby. Finally. 17 carries, 123 yards. Woo! 4 receptions, 36 yards. Got it done, bro.
Finally getting his love that he needed.
Yes. Yeah. I said this would be his coming out party, and he did it.
Yeah. So big.
But I will say Latavius Murray and Damian Harris both got a rushing touchdown. Yep. So that's gonna be the only frustration with James Cook, guys. If you are an owner of him, he's gonna get the touches. He's an efficient guy. He's a good back. He's gonna get the receptions out of that backfield. Excuse me. The red zone work is just gonna be sparing. I feel like if he does see a touchdown, it's gonna be a receiving touchdown in the red zone. I mean, when you have Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, that's just what happens.
Yeah,
those are two guys. Those are red zone guys. That's what they're built to do.
Right. They're gonna be the guys inside the 10, inside the 5.
Right. James Cook will play between the red zone, and then those guys are gonna get in those moments.
Yeah. So James Cook 2 rushing attempts inside the 10.
Right.
Or inside the 20. 0 inside the 2 inside the 10. 2 inside the 20, but inside the 5, 0.
Yeah.
So
that's just those are their 2 big backs. That's who they're going to give it to.
Yeah. On anything in goal, he won't.
Right. Which really
he won't see the carries.
I want this to make sense. Which really could play to his favor. We see smaller backs like that at the goal line get hurt, if that makes sense. Right. In a crowd like that. So him being a receiver guy, he's going to make up for the touchdowns there. So I'm just excited for him. I hope they run him like this more often.
Right. Yeah. I think he's gonna see more and more.
He's so good.
Work. Yeah, he is.
Receiving. I'm sorry guys. I'm gonna keep doing this. My sleeper of the week at receiver, Gabe Davis, our guy.
Yeah.
6 receptions, 92 yards, tied for team lead, 7 targets with Stephon, dude.
He finally looked like a receiver. Does that make sense? Yes. He finally looked like a receiver. A 15-yard catch was in play for Gabe Davis this week.
Yes. No, he looked good, dude. I hope you guys started him because you missed out because next week he's not going to do it. Stephon, though, 7 for 66. Fantasy-wise, yeah, he scored 13 points, which is good, not great. Not what you're expecting more, but that's a solid game nonetheless. 7 for 66. You can't really complain with that.
That's kind of his floor.
Yeah. So the 2 tight ends guys were actually both playable in this game, believe it or not. Kincaid, 5 receptions for 43 yards on 6 targets, second in the team. Dawson Knox saw 5 targets, 3 receptions, 10 yards, found pay dirt. Against a weak defense, this doesn't really surprise me, but going week to week, I'm not confident in either of those guys personally. It's picking who's going to find pay dirt or who's going to be more efficient with their receptions.
Yeah, if we saw Dawson Knox get all the work for Buffalo last year, and the running backs not as much. Now we're going to see more running back work in the receiving game.
Yeah.
And splitting the tight ends. And Dawson Knox is just kind of like a guy you just randomly
Dalton Kincaid's a first-round pick. So it's they're going to use him.
He's talented, yes. I wouldn't pick up or start any of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's taken away from Knox, obviously.
Right.
It's just, that's just going to be a headache if you're trying to, play the game between the both of them. So not something I would recommend, but if you started them this week, you're happy because tight end is hard to come by.
Yeah.
So moving to Cincinnati, Baltimore came to visit, spoiled the day for Cincy. Baltimore's 2-0, Cincy is 0-2.
Man.
Lamar looked pretty good. 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 rushes for 54 yards. Had a great fantasy day. Solid fantasy day.
He was making good throws.
Yes. He just looked, dude, that
making
pass
good runs.
to Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
I mean, great catch by Aguilar, but Lamar put that where it could only be.
Right.
That. When he's, dude, he gets me so excited. When he passes the ball well, it's there's you could argue there's no better weapon to have at quarterback.
Oh, if he's passing.
Yeah.
And then he also has the potential to run for 100 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what do you do? Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to see Lamar stay steady like that.
I want him to stay healthy.
I really love watching. He's so good. So moving to the running back department for Baltimore, guys. Gus Edwards, 10 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown. I hope you can do the math on that average. Saw a solid day. Didn't see any targets. That's who we know Gus Edwards to be. Finding pay dirt obviously helps him, but he is an efficient runner. Saw the third most rushes on the team though. Justice Hill 11 for 41. Justice Hill did see 3 targets for 3 receptions and 12 yards. So not a great day for Justice Hill. Inefficient on the ground. Obviously, he's out of the running backs is going to see the passing work if there is any.
Yeah, he's the passing work guy, and then 11 carries as well. So
it's gonna be a dead even split between those two.
Yeah,
it's who finds pay dirt. That's all it is.
Right. And Gus Edwards was my sleeper this week. I think that he's just such an efficient runner, over 5 yards per carry throughout his whole career, and then 6.2 in a more featured role. So I like Gus Edwards as the guy if you're gonna have to choose between the two of them.
That's
he
how
also he's huge, so he's gonna be used on the goal line.
Yeah, I think
like
that
Gus
2
Edwards
touchdown game the week prior from Justice Hill was kind of an anomaly.
It was. It definitely was.
There's no way Edwards is not the goal line guy.
Right, you would think at least.
Yeah.
And Justice Hill is the receiving guy.
Yeah. I love watching Gus. Like, he's another guy I just love watching run the ball.
Right.
Like, he's just violent. He's fast too. Like, he's just a good all. I'd like to see him upwards of 15, close to 20 carries. Obviously, not going to happen if this split stays up, but nonetheless, a dynamic runner.
I think we could see a couple. I think
there's
see
a few weeks where they ride him.
3 or 4 100-yard rushing games.
He has it in him. I know he does.
Definitely.
So, receiving guys, Nelson Aguilar was the big guy this week for the Ravens. Second on the team in targets behind Mark Andrews. 5 receptions, 63 yards. Saw that amazing touchdown I talked about earlier. I'm not really looking for him on waivers. Like, behind Zay, to me, and I mentioned this last week, it's going to be a toss-up, headache, figuring out who's striking that week and who's not.
Yep.
I mean, and also Zay Flowers. So, guys, if you were one of our guys, we had 2 questions about Dotson and Flowers, right? Like 2 different guys ask about that? Or was it the same guy on 2 different days?
Yeah, one of the 2. I mean, we were talking with I'll say Mark. I don't want to get this wrong because you're being really cool, and I hope that we get to talk more on the live streams headed forward. I'm pretty sure his name was Mark, and he's commented before on our videos.
Yes.
But I did get that question twice from 2 different people.
Yeah, so guys, not a good output from either Flowers or Dotson. Hopefully you rolled with Flowers. That's who I thought would have the higher ceiling that week. 4 receptions, 62 yards. Obviously did most of his damage on the 52-yard catch. Obviously, so that means 3 other receptions, guys, 10 yards. So it wasn't a great output for either of them, but still saw 5 targets. So I think Zay Flowers is safe to say he's the lead receiver in that offense.
He is. He's the guy.
Behind Andrews.
Yeah,
obviously.
he's the wide receiver. If you're going to choose one,
right.
It's Zay Flowers.
He's a guy going forward. Personally, I would have in my lineup every week if I'm a Zay Flowers owner.
Right.
That's what I would say. Mark Andrews, guys, back in the lineup, back to doing Mark Andrews things. 8 targets, 5 receptions, 45 yards, a touchdown. He's in your lineup, closing your eyes, sending it, not thinking twice about it. Don't have much more to touch on with him. We know who he is in this offense. He pretty much makes things go as Lamar goes. So I'm liking him. Good to see him back in the fold doing what he does. Joe Burrow for Cincy, guys. Saw him exit with the calf injury, same injury he had in preseason. Keep an eye on it if you're a Burrow owner, if you're a Higgins owner, a Chase owner. Not good. Like
Nathan H.
Nathan. Yeah, shout out to you, Nathan.
Sorry, Mark.
Don't listen to him.
So Nathan, it was Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan asked us that on Carter's Live. Flowers.
Sorry for getting your name wrong.
Carter phoned a friend. I was at the wreck. But yeah, man. So hope we solved that for you. Hope you played Flowers and had a good week this week. I know Flowers didn't have a great output either, but
better than Dotson.
Yeah, so hope you had success this week. But getting back to Cincinnati, Joe Burrow did have a solid game. 222 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, so not huge fantasy output. Mixon, modest numbers again. Saw 4.5 yards per carry. So seeing a more efficient Mixon to start out this season, albeit 13 carries for 59 yards, 4 receptions for 36 yards on 5 targets. So he is seeing the passing work. He's seeing the type of volume I think we wanted to see.
That's what you expect from him, too.
Right, and his efficiency is up. So that's big for Mixon, obviously. So that's big for Mixon. Obviously, if Burrow's not playing, like that offense as a whole is going to take a hit efficiency-wise, ceiling-wise. But Mixon's looking good nonetheless. T. Higgins, huge bounce back day. Huge day. Saw 0 receptions last week on 8 targets. Got 12 targets this week, 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Huge bounce back from him. If you're a Higgins owner, you're happy, hoping Joe Burrow comes back as soon as possible. On the other hand, Jamar Chase, bit of a headache this year so far.
Yeah.
Seeing the targets, but
Joe Burrow doesn't play healthy ever. So, like, he's always dealing with something or another. Do you think they should sit him? Like, do you think... I mean, they're 0-2. They're really in a hole right now.
Yeah. If you're them, you're kind of in desperation mode at this point. Just because, I mean, the Ravens are 2-. You're the last in your division.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I know it's only week 2, but still, like, if he can play, he's got to play. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
I think
as a player, you're going to want to play.
They already missed the bus of sitting him first week or 2.
That's what I thought they were going to do. Yeah. Maybe sit him the first week. He does have the 1 extra rest day with them playing on Monday night against the Rams. Obviously, hope that plays in his favor. So something to keep an eye on. But guys, don't go out on Chase yet. Don't trade him low. I would hold on to him right now. And if Burrow comes back, I'm not sweating it. Chase is going to be fine. He's an electric player. Saw 8 targets, guys. He's not gonna stay with this output.
Yeah, we saw him get a slow start to last season, too.
Yeah, the Bengals as a whole had a slow start to the season, but obviously you can't start like that every year, and especially not game to game. So looking for them to pick it up. Moving to Detroit, Seattle came in and ruined Detroit's home opener. Surprising victory there. Also, we got that previous game wrong. Got this game wrong too. Both picked Detroit. Geno Smith, the return of Geno, as you drop him. 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 yards rushing. So what we expected to see out of Geno coming in. If you held on to him, hopefully you started him this week. Had a great week. What we wanted to see. Kenneth Walker, 2.5 yards per carry on 17 carries. Do the math. 43 yards. 2 touchdowns. Really saved his day. Only saw 1 reception for 11 yards. But I like Kenneth Walker. I'm becoming more confident on him just because if we look at Charbonnet had 4 rushes.
Yeah.
And only 2 receptions on 2 targets. So only 1 more target than Kenneth Walker. And in a high output game like this, that kind of tells me where things stand more so than a close game, if that makes sense, just because there's more volume to go around.
Right.
So Walker really paced them at the running back position, which is what you like to see, albeit in a sort of inefficient day.
So Walker, through the first 2 weeks, 63% of snaps, 61% of snaps. Saw 44 last game. Charbonnet, 24 and 26. Saw 19 last game. And so, yeah, Walker's clearly the guy there.
Yeah.
Also, you didn't draft Charbonnet to be an early player, so he's someone you still stash, someone you still keep.
Don't drop him.
He's a guy that you drafted as someone that could come on later in the season.
Absolutely.
And all this excitement, there's like so much want to like get a result now, quick action. Right. It's just so exciting. But we're only in week 2, so you got to hold on to it.
Yeah, do not drop your guys. Like, even if you're 0-2 right now, hold on to your guys. Don't overreact. Don't go off emotion right now, unless there's just like an absolute banger at waivers. And if you're 0-2 and in a position where you have a top like 2 or 3 priority, and there's a guy where it's like, I have to get my hands on him, then drop one of those lower guys. But other than that, hold on to your guys.
Right.
Stick it out. Watch how it plays out. You see it every year where guys go drop players like that and they end up doing well. So DK Metcalf, 6 receptions, 75 yards. Was wrong on him busting this week. A solid output, 13.5 fantasy points, 6 targets. So second on team in targets, converted all of his targets to receptions, which is great to see. He's a guy week to week. I mean, obviously, I find him to be a little too inconsistent, but he's in your lineup. I like him. Like, he is what he is.
He came out and then came back in. So
right.
he
Tough
was
guy
able
too.
to.
Like,
right.
I'm not worried about that injury really.
I think that he's like the wide receiver 1 because of his build.
He is.
Like similar to AJ Brown. They're both like
Right,
huge guys.
Both
and
Ole
then
Miss.
you have a little bit more like receiving, like pure receiving talent
From
in
Tyler.
Tyler Lockett,
Yeah.
and then someone like Devontae Smith.
Speaking of Tyler Lockett,
Huge game.
8 receptions, 59 yards, 2
Just
touchdowns.
traded for him.
Good trade.
Yep, traded away Zach Ertz, my
And
guy,
Gus Bus.
and Gus Edwards. I don't know if I'm liking it now because I have Cam Akers.
I
have Austin Eckler.
Is not good.
I have JT.
And Raheem Mustard.
Well, yeah, Mostert's the saving grace.
Who had a
there.
great game. Just to touch on Jackson Smith. So Njigba he did have 6 targets, so tied with DK for second on team. Only 5 receptions for 34 yards. Guys, again, don't go dropping him. He's a guy who's he's gonna have his games through the season. First round pick. You're not gonna see him not being used. He was second on the team in targets, which is always healthy, always good to see from players. He's gonna have his game, guys. He'll have a coming out party here soon enough. You know, hold on to him. Don't look to play him necessarily. Just he's just a guy you're gonna have to wait on.
Yeah, I think that now we can shift over to Josh Reynolds. He's probably the most interesting player from this game, honestly, from a fantasy standpoint.
I kind of mentioned him after that KC game.
You did, and without them having Jameson Williams, he's the guy. He is Jameson Williams until Jameson Williams comes back, and 2 touchdowns last game.
And he sees solid volume, like even without the touchdowns.
Downfield as well.
Yeah, exactly. So him and Nico Collins remind me of each other. Being they're chunk players. They're gonna get yardage, and if they find pay dirt, then it's. And if they get volume, it's like everything comes together, as we saw from Nico Collins also this week.
Yeah.
So definitely he's definitely a waiver wire guy. Certainly a higher priority guy. I know Williams comes back week 7 after serving that 6-game gambling suspension. Reynolds, though, him and Goff have that connection. We've talked about it, guys, from back on the Rams. I like Reynolds as a guy on your bench season long. No reason not to have him. Just definitely a guy I'm looking to add on my roster.
Yeah.
No reason not to.
He's an interesting fantasy asset.
He's gonna, he'll have some bust weeks for sure, but like you're not expecting touchdowns and like big volume out of him. He's just like when he had 4 receptions for 80 yards against the Chiefs, that's kind of who I know him to be.
Right.
Like he might not see super volume, but he's going to be efficient with his touches.
I'd agree with that. He's going to get air yards. He's a good receiver if you need him as a flex. And Jared Goff is great at home. So in a home matchup, if you want to flex Josh Reynolds, I think you can.
Yeah. Speaking of Goff,
until Jameson Williams comes back, I think he could be a flex at home.
Yeah. Speaking of Goff, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns. Saw the pick 6 if you were watching. Really good game minus that pick 6 from Goff, a guy that we both liked coming in the season. Not much more to add on him. We kind of know who he is, an efficient passer who's on a great offense. So I really like Goff season long. If he's on your waivers, he's a top waiver wire priority going into next week. They play the Falcons, which should be. We saw Jordan Love have a successful game against them, so a good quarterback to stream this coming week, guys. So Monty, sort of the same from last week. 16 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Saw a reception for 7 yards, so good output from him yet again. I think we see what Gibbs and Monty are going to be this year. Not putting too much into trends, but I think that's the split that Detroit wants. Monty did sustain that injury, which you mentioned at the beginning. Craig Reynolds uptick in his sort of stock, but Monty he's day-to-day right now, destined to play this weekend. So Craig Reynolds, guys, not a high priority waiver wire in my opinion. Just not like a talented guy. Not, I think we're going to see a Gibbs explosion if Monty doesn't play this week. Reynolds. I mean,
he's gonna.
I feel like he's gonna
those
see
carries.
he's gonna see a goal line touchdown. Like
he's gonna
that's
see
just how
the
I see
David
it.
Montgomery role.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
He's just not
to a
gonna play
lesser
it as
degree.
well. Right.
He's not gonna get week 1. Monty got 80% of snaps, and then before going out, he had 45% of snaps for the whole game, and he went out. So he probably would have seen somewhere around 60 to 70 yet again.
Right.
And so Craig Reynolds is probably gonna see 50%. I mean, I don't think
something like that.
I don't think they can yet implement Gibbs, and I don't think their intent is to implement Gibbs as the
doesn't
every down
seem like
back.
it. No.
So but as you said, not exactly explosive and has touchdown upside, just not someone to really pick up for real.
Moving to Gibbs, guys, not an efficient day on the ground. 7 carries for 17 yards, but he saw 7 receptions, so obviously PPR, what we always talk about on the format we always play in. 7 receptions, 39 yards. Redeemed his day through the air on like that. Still unfortunate not to see him get, those spread out touches, explosive sort of touches. It's coming. I know you're probably disappointed right now, frustrated if you used, like I did, around second round pick on him, but I'm still looking up. He's a guy, there's no way he doesn't, bust open one of these weeks.
Right. He'll have one of those games and everyone's gonna want him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so talented too.
Right.
Like
first round pick again.
So fun to
12th
watch.
overall pick. Yeah. So I'm not worried about him. Amon-Ra does what he did. He does it. He's gonna do it week in, week out, guys. 6 receptions, 102 yards. Big week from him. Sam Laporta, 5 receptions on 63. He's seeing great volume. He's an efficient player. I don't know if you saw the catch he had, split open from 2 defenders.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a talented player. He's basically the wide receiver 2 in the offense, although him and Reynolds, kind of neck and neck right there right now. Really liking Laporta. He's tied for 4th at the tight end position in terms of fantasy points right now. So, guys, if he's still on your waiver wire, please go pick him up. Been mentioning him all offseason and all last week. You guys know I'm a big Laporta guy, so that's my guy. Had a good week. Definitely someone you want at tight end.
Something definitely worth mentioning. I agree with everything you said about Laporta. He's gonna be a great player going on. Amon-Ra in that game suffered from turf toe, so that's going around, I guess. In the third quarter, so he didn't even see like all the snaps that you expect him to. Obviously, still had a great output, and he looked a little bit shaky after coming out, and then
so like with Terry, it's like we saw him have like a week down in terms of practice and stuff, and then came back healthy for week 1. Don't know if that affected his week 1 production. McLaurin, we're talking about, guys. Bounce back this week, obviously. So I don't know if Amon-Ra could be like a 2-week kind of bounce back, but if he's cleared and playing this upcoming week, he's in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he's in your lineup. You just keep an eye on it.
Keep an eye on it, exactly. So moving to this next game, Tennessee spoiled the Chargers.
Yeah, we suck.
27
out.
Another one we got wrong.
Staley needs to leave. He is not a defensive mastermind. In fact,
he's not a mastermind in anything except going for it on 4th down.
Yeah, he brought that. Him and the Bengals coach, they brought that
Zach
to
Taylor.
Zach Taylor. I kept wanting to say Evan McPherson, but
that's the kicker.
That's the kicker. I couldn't think because they're both like young dudes. I guess I don't know, but
2 young dudes.
Yeah, him and Zach Taylor really. Oh, the numbers.
Right.
I got to go for it on 4th down. Well, guess what? You got to get out of there, Staley.
Meanwhile, Zach Taylor is over here playing for Super Bowls and Brandon Staley's not.
Yeah, you're an average coach at best. I mean, coach had one decent defensive. He had one season as defensive coordinator. I think their defense was like
for the Rams, right?
Yeah, for the Rams, and I think they were like 16th in efficiency or something like that. Just like. Obviously, they were big in turnovers, like a great defense that carried them, but
that
was the year before their Super Bowl.
2017 then? Something like that?
Yeah.
They went in 2018, I believe.
So, because Staley was coaching the Chargers. So, the year before their Super Bowl year, they were the top 5 defense. The year before that, they were like a defense that was respected, but they weren't not crazy.
Yeah.
And that was the year Staley was there, when they were just like... Yeah. Middle of the pack with like talent that could just make plays.
And that's who the Chargers got.
And and that's what we got. We just got we got middle of the pack, 1-year defensive coordinator that is now head coach of a team that has over $300 million spread to 4 players. And we are saying, like, dude, you have Khalil Mack, Eric Kendricks now, Derwin James, Asante Samuel, like
Joey Bosa, J.C.
Line.
Jackson.
Go down the line. All the money has been
get it,
allocated.
really
Most
don't get
expensive defense in the NFL. And yet we are bottom of the pack in
Can't
everything.
stop Ryan Tannehill.
We're giving up almost 7 yards a play.
Yeah. That's
like, if you want to hate on Herbert, go ahead and hate on Herbert. There's chances he's had to put the game away.
right.
But the defense is not helping at all.
Nope.
And neither is the offensive line, because every time it's crunch time when Herbert needs to put the game away, guess what? Miami sacks him twice, and then he has a throwaway because he's about to get sacked again. Last week, 3rd and 5 on the goal line, ready to punch it in because we know who Herbert is in those situations. Sacked. Like, it's ridiculous.
Is this your way of getting frustrations?
Yes. I just need to vent
right.
I need to vent that.
Guys, be here for Carter in these tough times. This is his
single
therapy, essentially.
If you're a Chargers fan, I mean, you're feeling the same thing I do, and
I've
needs
seen
to
it
leave.
for 10 plus years, being a friend of yours now for
Yeah.
so long.
It's been worse than this at times because I still have hope because we are so talented.
Yeah.
But this is bad. 0-2. There's only one team that's ever made the playoffs after 0-2,
Really?
and it was the Bengals last year.
That's interesting. Something to take note of. There's hope.
I guess. I think that gives me way less hope.
Yeah. Odds aren't in your favor. We can say that.
Yeah, we need to win 2 of the bye.
Yeah. So Herbert did have a good game, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Missed opportunities at the very end of the game, though, on from a real football standpoint. Josh Kelly, underwhelming, but we kind of warned against that. He was a top waiver wire pickup. Warned against going against that Tennessee front, who was brutal, with Jeffrey Simmons leading the pack. Kelly obviously saw the workhorse role, though, so that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Only 1 target, no receptions, though.
You're still ecstatic if you got him because once he has a good matchup and Eckler's out, he's RB2.
Even with Eckler in, opening up the offense like that, we saw him week 1 have a great day. So I think Josh Kelly, guys, moving forward in the season is still a great play, still a great pickup, great stash on your bench.
Yeah. I would like to see how it goes, by the bye week. I mean, you can definitely play him before then, but just in general, from being a Chargers fan, because
you guys do have Minnesota this week, that's a good matchup.
This is a good matchup that I'd play Kelly, especially if Eckler's out.
Right.
It's just 61 rushing yards last week after 200 plus or 100, however much we had.
I mean, that Titans defense is good, bro.
It is. It is. They're one of the best.
That's their strength of that entire team.
Right. Yeah.
So,
we projected that too.
Yeah.
We said that Kelly was someone.
Beware, buyer beware. Buyer do not beware. Keenan Allen, baby, our guy.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, best value of this.
8 receptions,
one of the best value.
111 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 targets. You know who he is. Keenan Allen, dude. Looked great. I mean, he's playing all sections of the field right now too. It's everything we thought and more. Like Carter was saying, trying to get in while I was ecstatic right there. One of the best values in the draft. We were saying it all off season. Keenan Allen, guys, great pick, great player, the lead guy in that offense. Mike Williams did see 13 targets, which is encouraging because you want to see volume in his direction.
Yeah.
8 receptions for 83 yards. So really great from him. Glad to see them. I feel like I can't even remember the last time they both had a big game together,
It's been a while because usually they're not healthy together.
All right. So great stuff from them. Josh Palmer, neither Josh Palmer nor Quentin Johnston, guys, anything to rave about there.
Except Josh Palmer should have had a touchdown. I mean,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he caught the ball, perfect throw, perfect placement, and he, if you see the play, you know what I'm talking about.
Chargers activity.
His foot came just as close to being toe drag swag as possible without. He was probably a centimeter away from getting that second toe down.
A game of inches,
So,
boys.
one catch away from like a 10-point output. And
Yeah.
I think that,
Right.
on good matchups, he is a good player that could see,
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
I'm not mad if you play him,
If
but
you're in a
I'm also a
crunch.
Chargers fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not someone I'm looking
I'm not.
to
Yeah, I'm not
He's
looking.
going
to
to be
get
the
him
third
in.
guy there.
Yeah. Gerald Everett, leading tight end this week, 3 receptions for 47 yards. Not really encouraging to play Parham or Everett. I love Everett. He just doesn't seem ever to get the opportunity that he truly deserves. I think he's a talented player. Not someone that's great on the fantasy radar.
Yeah, 7.7 points last week.
So Tannehill, guys, had a solid week. Nothing to rave about. I mean, 246 yards, touchdown. Saw the rushing touchdown. Was that the one that tied it up in that game?
That put them ahead.
Okay. Dang.
No. It was an odd score all game, so
Hold on.
I want to say that made it 24.
That made it 17-14.
17-14. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that put them up.
Yeah, 17-14 put them up. That was the first drive coming out of halftime. So,
Bro, like, people want to talk about Herbert not being clutch. He still put up 10 points in the fourth quarter.
yeah. Dude, yeah. That team, something about the mojo there. It's just Staley needs to go. That, in my opinion, that's what it is.
30 plus in the first game, 24 in the second game.
The only team
You got
what was
like
the
that's good
stat?
enough to win.
Only team with like no turnovers and 60 plus points
Yeah.
to be like 0-2 or something like
in
that.
history.
Yeah.
Like, just ridiculous how we find ways to lose.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Y'all seem to do some amazing stat like that every year.
Four straight games of losing by under 3 points. By 3 points or under.
Y'all
Going
do.
back to Broncos week 18 last year, then the Jaguars game, lost in miraculous fashion, and then Miami and Titans were both times we had a chance to put the game away. Like,
Y'all find a way to do it, man.
it's just crazy.
My
like,
heart goes out to all you Chargers
Also,
fans.
last year,
The 5 of you that do.
we can just end this game because we've sat on it for a long time,
Yeah.
and nothing too fancy relevant. Tajay Spears is a guy that
I mean, Henry
if
had
Henry
a great game.
ever leaves, Tajay Spears is a great ad.
Right.
So
in,
great-
in Dynasty League, we never talk about Dynasty, but Tajay Spears is a great guy to have.
Oh yeah, and he sees snaps. But
yeah.
just to end off this game, last year, 7 wins by 1 possession, 5 losses by 1 possession.
Titans?
Chargers.
Chargers.
So every single game we have, we just
Right. It's
for-
just tight.
Like there's never a time you see people like Mahomes where say he's a touchdown up and then defense forces, a 3 and out or something, or defense drives, say the offense drives, gets a field goal. So now it's a 4-point game. What does Mahomes do? What does the Chiefs do? They go and score
Execute.
another touchdown.
They execute.
And they put that away because that's a 2-possession game. Right back again. We just
They execute.
we had a
They
2-possession
hold up the
game.
middle finger and execute. That's what they do.
Yeah, we had a 2-possession game, 11-0. Guess what? Treylon Burks, 60 plus yards.
Yeah, he had 3 receptions, 76 yards. Guys, D-Hop, not a great production day from him. 4 receptions on 40 yards. Saw a healthy amount of targets, but not a great receiving day from him. He'll bounce back. He's straight. So moving on to our next game, guys. Moving to a 2-0 team down in Florida. Not Miami. Tampa Bay, baby. Tampa Bay is 2-0. Shout out to Baker, man. Shout out.
300 plus yards.
You know who I'm going to give props to? Mike
Brian?
Evans.
Bruce Arians?
Mike Evans. A guy that I have not been high on, guys. A guy that I have not given props to. Mike Evans, 6 receptions, 171 yards, and a touchdown, dude. What a beast. I'm not saying anything bad on him from season out. You got to hold me accountable to that. I'm not saying a single bad thing about him. He'll never be my bust. He shut me up. The first 2 weeks of the season, he shut me up already. Christian Watson's going to do the same, too. Watch. We're going to look like idiots, like morons.
So Mike Evans right now is looking like a wide receiver 1. He doesn't keep that up.
I will say, if you can, trade him away if you can get if you can get good players. Mike Evans is great trade value right now.
He's a great sell high.
Trade, yes. This is peak sell high. Like, this is the definition of sell high.
Yeah, if we had a sell high like segment, sell high like video, he would probably be on the thumbnail.
Yes.
He's the number 1 sell high guy.
Yes.
in the league right now. He's not going to
Even
keep
though
up
he
with
could
his
have
doing.
like a great season-long output, like it's not going to be like this season-long. But yeah, he's the definition of like sell high guys. If you can get really good players, someone that's looking for a receiver, do it.
He also played. Who did he play week 1?
Minnesota.
He played Minnesota,
An
and then
awful
he just
Minnesota
played
defense.
the awful Bears.
Yeah.
So
definitely sell high candidate. Baker Mayfield though, 317 yards, touchdown, 17 yards on the ground. Rashad White, your boy, 17 carries, 73 yards and a touchdown. Saw good air work too, 5 receptions for 30 yards on 5 targets. Good work from him. I was glad to see Rashad get that. I think that's the back. That's the back I want to see. I really like him. Sean Tucker had 8 carries, but only had 7 yards, so not even 1 yard per carry.
yeah,
So I like to see Rashad White in that role. He's the workhorse guy. He's the talented back there. He's the guy back there.
5 receptions for 30 yards as well, putting him at 21.3 points.
Whew.
Major output for
Yes,
Rashad
Carter's
White.
guy. Also, Chase Edmonds is out for a little while, so that thins out the people behind him. So that's good for him too. Takes a little more away from a possible backup receiving role from anyone. Pushes that to Rashad White hopefully. So definitely a guy that we like to see get some bigger work there.
I think takeaway from this is you see Evans with a huge output, Rashad White, who I expect to have good outputs. You just start anyone you can against the Bears.
Yes,
The Bears are
I like that.
absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, this
they're
is
trash.
bad.
It's
Justin
bad.
Fields has not improved. In fact, he's gotten worse.
Well, okay, we'll touch on that.
They're
in a
not
second.
designing runs for him.
Dude.
They're just going
okay.
back to the same thing they did last year.
We'll get to that in a second. Because I got a lot to say. Chris Godwin, 5 receptions, 58 yards. Him and Evans, Evans plays to Baker's strengths. That's how I'm viewing this right now. Evans is a deep ball guy. We know Baker likes to sling it. I think it favors Evans. Godwin, he's going to see volume still. He's a great, talented receiver. So I like Godwin more as a flex level guy right now, whereas Mike Evans is either, he's in your designated wide receiver slots.
Fringe RB2.
Wide receiver too?
Yeah.
Cade Otton, the tight end, 6 receptions, 41 yards. So you're streaming him. I don't think he's a horrible streaming option. He's a talented player, second-year guy. Not a priority on waivers, but if you're looking for a streaming guy going into this weekend, then at tight end for some reason, I don't think Cade Otton's the worst you can do. I think he's a good player. Plays Philadelphia this upcoming week, though. We did see Hawkinson have a big week, so I think he could be a solid pickup nonetheless. Getting to Justin Fields, guys. The offensive line is awful. The play design is awful, like you said. Why does he only have 4 rushes?
It's ridiculous.
Why, when you have and I don't want to sit here and call Justin Fields a star because he has not proved that yet. When you have a player with the type of talent that he has, why are you not putting him in position to succeed? That doesn't make sense to me. You have to play to your player's strengths as a coach. That's what you have. That's what coaches do. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
He was rushing for 100+ yards last year in certain games. Why does he only have 4 rushes for 3 yards? That does not make sense to me.
It's ridiculous. And they're designing you just touched on this, the worst plays.
Yeah.
That screen his pick 6, that was terrible. I'm pretty sure that was the 3rd screen they drew up, and all of them failed.
I was about to say this.
He literally threw it where he was supposed to.
The play before that was the same exact play. Just
what are they doing?
They had a 2x2 set the play prior and a trip set on that play. You're running the same exact play back to back in your own end zone? That makes no. I don't know. It pissed me off. Justin Fields had 2 touchdowns, 1 on the air, 1 on the ground, 211 yards passing. DJ Moore though, the lone bright spot from this Chicago offense.
Like
so guys, hopefully you started him. Yeah, 6 receptions, 104 yards. Darnell Mooney did go out. Claypool had 3 receptions, 36 yards and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, guys, had higher hopes for him. 4 receptions for 38 yards, 6 targets. I get with tight end being so thin, you can play him. Just not real confident about him. Khalil Herbert, Roshan, facing negative game script most of the game, but still weird because it wasn't like it was really a blowout. Really not excited about either of those guys. I think Roshan Johnson's the guy to have season long. But nonetheless, Carter was right on this game, predicted Tampa Bay. I was wrong, went with Chicago. maybe because I'm a Justin Fields owner. But yeah, not good things in Chicago right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Justin Fields playing wise. I would sit him for a while. Like I'm
He's in my lineup.
Under no circumstances would I drop Justin Fields.
No.
But I would rather go stream to stream until they can figure something out that's efficient with him.
I'll have to see. Like if Goff's on waivers this week, I'll have to pick him up probably.
Yeah,
but
under no, and then Roshan Johnson too is another guy I'd like to have on my bench, but I'm not playing him.
Yes. So Jacksonville guys, Kansas City pulled it out in a tough, low-scoring game, surprising to both of us. 17-9. Travis Kelce did play, so our prediction was the Chiefs.
Yep.
But a real tough game. Saw it going to halftime at 7-6, and then not much scoring going on after that. Mahomes still 300 yards, 2 touchdowns with a pick, 30 yards on the ground. So solid day from Mahomes. Still put up 23 points, I believe it is. Pacheco, though, I want to touch on that. 12 carries. No other running back saw more than 1. So that's very, very, very encouraging in my opinion. Obviously, McKinnon had 3 receptions. Edwards-Helaire had 2, and Pacheco only had 1. Guys, Pacheco is another guy. Do not sell low on him. Do not drop him. Anything like that. Ride him out. Keep in your flex spot. When he scores a touchdown, he's gonna have a big day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I view him. Not a frustrating guy nonetheless. But if you can keep him in your flex spot, or if you have a better option, Kansas City plays Chicago next week.
Yeah,
guys,
smash play.
Yes, we just touched on it.
I mean, you might even want to start Sky Moore.
Yeah.
Or like Kadarius Toney.
So, guys, I was really pissed off last week. Told you I'd look at you funny if you had Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney, and now I'm just looking funny at myself in the mirror. They both had pretty solid games. Sky Moore, 3 receptions, 70 yards with a 54-yard bomb. Scored the touchdown, so that was good stuff from him. Toney had 5 receptions for 35 yards. Travis Kelce came back, did what he does, just like Mark Andrews did. 4 receptions, 26 yards, and a touchdown. Kelce's in your lineup, no doubt.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to wait a little bit on Sky Moore, because you need to see how they scheme him up when Kelce's there. Yeah. Kelce's going to cover everything 10 yards and under, maybe even 15 yards and under. And that opens up Sky Moore to not have to run those routes. He can run the deep routes. And I think a 54-yard touchdown is something we can see, as consistently as not like consistently week to week, but once every 3 or 4 weeks, you see a 50-yard touchdown from Sky Moore. That's not outside of
when you have your leader there in the receiving room. I know Kelce's a tight end, but it boosts your confidence as a secondary guy to go out there and do your job versus being thrown in the fire as the top guy. You're like, oh, I have to be perfect. I'm the lead guy now. But it's like you can kind of take the role that you're fit, you're more tailored to. Mm-hmm. And then just play to your strengths and not have as much focus on it.
Was all kind of sudden, too. Like, Sky Moore's announced the wide receiver 1. By the way, Kelce's out.
Right.
So there's like so much pressure all at this time.
I do like that.
And then Kadarius Toney was like, what's going to happen with him? He plays like at the end.
I do like the play Sky Moore against Chicago next week. I would say get him in your lineup unless you have clear-cut better guys.
Right. And you know who those guys are.
Right, yeah. Unless you have like a really poor matchup. But
I want to touch back on Pacheco because the way we've talked about Pacheco is someone that's a Kickstarter for him. What do we see? A lagging Kansas City offense, 31-yard run, and they're back in business. Right. Pacheco has a great day. And as you said, if he has a touchdown, great fantasy day as well.
Exactly.
So he's a guy that we've been saying is a flexible option all year. And to toot our own horns or whatever, but he did exactly what we expect, and I think that we're going to see throughout the season.
Toot my horn. Lawrence, Jacksonville's offense is very underwhelming right now.
Yeah.
Poor day from Trevor. Took 4 sacks, almost a 50% completion percentage, 216 yards, no touchdowns. Didn't do anything on the ground really. ETN had a very modest day. He left early also. Although Tank Bigsby did not even put up any, sort of statistics. So keep an eye if you're an ETN owner. Should be back. I haven't seen any news on him, so I think it was just kind of a minor thing. Christian Kirk, guys, was he your sleeper at receiver?
He was.
Yeah, so Carter called the bounce back, and Carter and I both touched on it. Like, he's one of those guys when he has a poor week, play him the next week because you know he's gonna level himself out throughout the season. So 14, dominated that receiver room this week. 14 targets, 11 receptions, 110 yards. A guy that you got to get him in your lineup. You got to take the good with the bad. It is what it is.
Kansas City is very susceptible to the slot position.
Yes. And he plays Houston next week, which is an exploitable matchup too.
Right. Also, he saw 80% of snaps last week, which is something you don't expect to see a lot. But, that's awesome if you do.
Yeah.
Zay Jones' injury also helped out a little bit.
So, Evan Ingram, 6 receptions for 57 yards. Good stuff out of him, especially at the tight end position. Calvin Ridley, guys, if you're a Calvin Ridley owner, very underwhelming performance. 2 receptions for 32 yards on 8 targets. Do not panic. 8 targets, guys. That it was like when T. Higgins saw 8 targets week 1, no receptions. I just combined a lot of different words.
You combine that whole sentence into one word.
T. Higgins. But Calvin Ridley, guys, talented player. He's gonna see his targets. Christian Kirk just really exposed the weakness of that Kansas City defense. Trevor Lawrence also lost the fumble. So
Trevor Lawrence, 4 throws away from a huge game. How many toe taps did they almost get?
That one that Calvin Ridley slowed himself down on the far corner.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If he got that in, that would have been one of the catches of the year, dude. That would
you're
have
not
been insane.
You're not worrying about any of those players because they were so close. I think that's literally just the Kansas City Chiefs winning regardless of what's happening.
That's that little Kansas City magic.
Yeah, they just have that magic.
Right.
Especially in era or
they were in Jacksonville.
They were in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just
Kansas. Bro, it's when you have Kelsey, Mahomes, and Big Red together, dude. They get the little tips and tricks.
Chiefs have a great winning streak going on right now against the Jaguars, and
they do three game win streak as far as I'm concerned.
More than 3 in the last 14 games they've played.
Yeah,
and KC has won all 3 of those.
Right.
But I think it's a mad win streak. They got I think 11 plus games, something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So moving to a AFC South matchup in Houston, guys. Indy came, visited, left with the W. Anthony Richardson is probably the second biggest news. I'll get to my guy later. Anthony Richardson had a solid start to his day. 3 carries, 35 yards, 2 touchdowns. Saw 6 of 10 completions and attempts, 56 yards. Went out with a concussion. Really unfortunate because he is electric right now in the real world. And I think the Colts could. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're gonna be a playoff team or anything, but I think they could surprise. They're a team that's gonna play spoiler. I feel like they're a solid team. Nothing spectacular, obviously, but I think that they can spoil teams some weeks with the dynamic that they have going. I will say Gardner Minshew, guys, probably one of the top streaming quarterback options if Richardson does not play. We've seen Minshew fill in before. He's a solid guy. Has rushing upside too. Saw him fill in admirably, albeit against a poor Texans defense. Not my number one guy by any means. He does play Baltimore, which shaky matchup. Zach Moss, big game from him. 18 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So good stuff out of him. No other running back saw a carry, guys. Something to take note of. He's a big waiver wire pickup. But Jonathan Taylor comes back. We're expecting him to come back week 5. Something else to keep an eye on. But I think if you're in a crunch, like this guy to my left, Zach Moss is not the worst you could do. Does play Baltimore, but with no one else getting carries.
It's his backfield.
Yeah, it's his backfield.
Volume
is king.
Yeah, I mentioned on the waiver wire episode last week about him, and he's going to be the guy until Jonathan Taylor comes back and potentially for the whole season because we all know what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. Right. If he doesn't play, then Zach Moss is your guy season long.
Yeah. So receiving wise, another nice day for Pittman. A guy I think is no doubt in your lineup. 12 targets, dude. The next closest guy was Josh Downs at 5. So 8 receptions, 56 yards. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Pittman in terms of opportunity and production. He was a guy where him and Sutton were getting drafted in that 8-9 range. You're more than happy with him. 2 guys you mentioned before I was really on him. You kind of convinced me on both of them. coming into the season. So very happy with them if you drafted them.
You just gotta know that the workload was there last year for Pittman. He just
He
didn't
had 99
convert.
receptions.
Yeah, and he's gonna have more this season.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I want to shout out CJ Stroud, dude. He had a solid game. Saw 47 passing attempts in your second game in the NFL is not easy to handle. Put up 384 yards, 30 completions, and 2 touchdowns. So that's encouraging from him to see him handle that, do well, put up big numbers, no turnovers. Did lose the fumble, but no picks. So, that's big for him. I'm proud of him. I like to see that. I hate to see rookie quarterbacks or rookies in general get bashed like off of 2-3 games or something. We expect these guys to be Dan Marino coming out of the gates. So very proud of him. Happy to see that. Dameon Pierce, guys, really struggling to start this season. Is getting the workload, just not seeing the opportunity. Granted, they did have both their tackles out, and Kenyon Green, their second-year guard, is out for the season. So hopefully, at least they can get Laramie Tunsil back in. That'd be great. Outside of that, Pierce just a real dim outlook. Houston has Jacksonville next week, so not really sure what to think of that. I feel like Pierce is a guy you're playing. He's just on high bust alert week to week. That's just how I feel about him.
Yep.
So moving into Houston's receivers, my guy, Nico Collins, baby.
Collins.
You made me start him.
I did.
You gave me guys, before my game with my Drake London conundrum, I didn't start Drake London. Started Nico Collins, dude. I was more than happy. Actually was tied for second in targets. Tank Dell saw the most, who was another guy that had a great game. Him, Woods, and Collins all had great games. Collins was the leader, though, guys. 7 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. A guy I touched on a lot before the season started. He gets, every reception is a chunk play. It's almost like every reception is 15 yards or more. So I really like Nico Collins season long. I think he's a guy, if he's on your team and you don't have a defined flex, he's your guy.
He just needs to stay healthy. That's it.
That's it. That's really how I view him. He's going to get the workload. Him and Stroud obviously have a connection. Robert Woods, 6 receptions, 74 yards. Tank Dell, 7 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Although, they're playing from behind a lot, so obviously 47 attempts from Stroud, you're going to see more volume go to guys. But,
yeah, that's something you like from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, so, and that could be something we see often this season.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if they're playing from behind, they're going to be throwing more passes. That's basically the simple logic there. But between Robert Woods and Tank Dell, I like Tank Dell a little bit more.
With the youth, yeah, I lean that way too. So they're actually, the Houston Texans are the only team with 3 receivers in the top 36.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was the Saints.
Surprising.
They were showing this on NFL, the show. And I thought it was the Saints with Shaheed, Thomas, and Olave, but Thomas is like wide receiver 38 or something.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, pretty good stuff. Schultz saw 7 targets, 4 receptions, 34 yards. So, he's a fringe tight end 1, a guy, if you're streaming for a matchup, go get him.
That's what encouraged me most about seeing almost 400 passing yards from CJ Stroud. It's like, okay, Dalton Schultz, I don't think we had to panic on him as much as we were in the last week. I think that he's going to have a role throughout the season, and someone that you drafted to be a tight end you can start. I think he's still a tight end that you can start, but as you said, kind of on that fringe tight end 1, high end tight end 2.
Yeah. Moving to Los Angeles, guys, not the Chargers, but the Rams. San Fran came in there, stole that game. Not really stole it. We knew who was going to win. 30-23, closer game than we expected, though. It was a good game.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
No, these Rams are legit.
Yeah, I think this is a Rams team. Certainly, you were higher on them than I was coming into the season. Certainly a team outperforming consensus expectations, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so Brock Purdy, guys, not a great game. Saved his day with the rushing touchdown. If you did start him, only 206 passing yards. Christian McCaffrey, man, getting it done. No other running back saw a single touch. 20 carries, 116 yards.
Or single snap.
A crazy touchdown, yeah. And had 3 receptions for 19 yards. Know who he is. Deebo Samuel, though, with Ayuk being hampered, was the leading receiver. And also, we saw him in, this was vintage Deebo, So if you're a Debo owner, guys, the guy I liked at his ADP in the 4th round there, which amazed me, Debo, guys. I mean, I'm ecstatic if I'm a Debo owner. 5 receptions, 38 yards and a touchdown. 6 receptions, 63 yards. Did I say 5 receptions? 5 carries, guys. 6 receptions, 63 receiving yards. Found the touchdown on the ground. Great game from him. Exactly what you want to see. Brandon Ayuk obviously came back down to earth. Had that shoulder injury on the very first drive. 3 receptions on 43 yards. Still saw 6 targets, so second on the team. And Kittle. Carter, you mentioned this earlier. Could see an uptick in usage if Ayuk is hampered. I'm just not real confident in him right now, though. Like, he's a great talent. I'm just not seeing it.
I mean,
I don't feel confident.
This 49ers team is just steamrolling teams.
Right.
And, like, I think it could go to anyone at this point.
And if you have McCaffrey running and then Debo's operating as that hybrid guy, like, it just takes away touches, you know?
It does.
Touches to go around. So
I do like Kittle as a touchdown.
Yeah.
High
hoping
touchdown
for.
upside guy.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't seem to be that yardage guy anymore.
Not that it was early in his career, no.
Yeah. That wraps it up for San Fran. Moving to Los Angeles, Matt Stafford with 55 attempts, 300 yards, and a touchdown. Did have 2 picks. I will say, only 1 sack on the day for the Rams, so good offensive protection from him, or for him, not Matt Stafford out there blocking. Kyron Williams. So we saw
Let
Cam
me touch on
Akers.
Matthew Stafford real quick.
Yeah.
I really like him season long. I've mentioned this before. He had over 300 passing yards in his first game, over 300 passing yards this game against a really telling game for the Rams. I mean, this 49ers team is really good.
Legit.
And if they didn't have that, that interception that was a direct pass to Kyron Williams, he wasn't able to bring it in.
I didn't see it.
Popped up, and then the 49ers got it.
Took it.
And this was on a drive to tie the game at the point or take the lead. It was tie game, something like that.
Gotcha.
I mean, very critical point.
Right.
They were competitive the whole entire game. Obviously, the Rams or the 49ers kind of took it away a little bit at the end after that pick. That was a real big turning point.
I did see that one.
But that one of those interceptions was not Matthew Stafford's fault. The other one was. And we see Matthew Stafford be a little bit reckless. Like, he's going to throw interceptions, but if he's 307 yards against the 49ers, I don't think anyone thought that, especially going into the season.
No.
So, season long, I really do like Stafford.
I don't mind him. Kyron Williams is probably the big, well, I don't know, him and Puka. Kyron Williams, though, 14 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown, as well as 6 receptions, 48 yards and a touchdown, 10 targets, too. So, great usage out of him, guys, against a tough 49ers defense So, the Rams go against Cincy next week. I like Kyron Williams. I think he's another guy where if you have him almost like Nico, if you have him and you don't really have a solid flex guy, you're playing him. Oh, you got to find it. He's got to find a way in your lineup.
He's running back 2 on the season right now.
Yeah,
2 touchdowns in each of his games.
Right. So he's waiver priority number 1, I'd say.
If he's still on your waivers. Yeah, if no one picked him up after week 1, he and Jerome Ford are tied for the top of the top of waiver wires season long. I mean, this is like a huge week for season long upside. Kyron Williams. Absolutely. And then I think Puka Nacua is already picked up, but he record breaking rookie receiving and targets.
Who told you about
the first 2 games? I can't believe you were high on Puka Nacua because everyone seems shocked except for. I mean, I think you're even a little bit shocked about how good.
Dude. Okay. I didn't think he was gonna do this. I cannot say that.
20
targets, 15 receptions, 147 yards, putting up records. Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't even know like how this is. I don't know, man. I don't know what it's gonna look like when Kupp comes back. Is he just playing the Kupp role right now? Is he really like this? Obviously he's talent. Like, I don't know, dude. Put him in the lineup next week.
Against the 49ers.
I didn't start him. And I mean, thank God Nico had a great day.
Yeah.
But
no, you have to start him now. Until Cooper Kupp comes back.
I'm starting him and Collins next week at receiver.
I mean, those are 2 great guys that you got late, man. I mean, that's amazing value.
Guys. That's why you draft your guys.
Dude, I mean, there's nothing really to say that the stats won't tell you about Puka Nacua. He's Cooper Kupp until Cooper Kupp comes back.
Yeah. One sneaky waiver I want to touch on is Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
He's seen great production the first 2 games, 9 targets this game, 7 receptions, 77 yards. So, guys, if he's available and you have someone that's kind of looking like worthless at the bottom of your bench, rostering, 3 tight ends or, some situation like that, go pick up Tutu Atwell. I think he's a good player, a guy that we're seeing step into a true receiver. I feel like he's kind of been looked at as a gadget guy.
Yeah.
I've seen him really step into a true receiving role, so very good for him. I say he's a lower end waiver wire guy. I don't hate the pickup. No other receiver. I mean, Van Jefferson 1 reception on 4 targets.
Yeah, you can drop him.
Yeah, you can drop him, guys. Thought he'd play a bigger role. Higbee had 7 targets, only 3 for 12. So obviously the potential's there, guys. I would not be out on Higbee. I would not drop him. Volume as a tight end is hard to find. It's going to come. He's going to find pay dirt. I don't mind streaming someone else with him, but certainly would not go drop him.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the hype around Higbee, certainly going into the season, Cooper Kupp we knew was out. So we're like, okay, we're going to get
Right.
We saw when Cooper Kupp was out last year, Higbee was just peppered with targets. So we're like, okay, it's going to be Higbee, right? No, it's Puka.
And
Higbee is still getting good targets because Matthew Stafford has thrown the most balls in the NFL right now, coming back and just slinging it around. So as you said, there's going to be 20 to Puka. But
that's crazy.
I think that Higbee's a guy you start if you have to. Right there with like Musgrave, with he's kind of on the fringe.
Schultz. He's
not
fringe
someone
tight end
you're excited to
high
start.
end tight end 2.
And like you hope he gets a touchdown.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
But he's not the guy that's looking to get, 7, 8 receptions and like give you points that way.
Yeah, I would agree. So guys, moving to Arizona, the Giants came in, big comeback win from them. Unfortunately, lost their guy Saquon in the mix. Daniel Jones, though, led them to that comeback. I'll say that. I mean, I don't really know what to take away from this game. 2 teams not looking so good. Don't really know what to make of the Giants. But Daniel Jones, 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception, touchdown on the ground, also 59 rushing yards. So Jones, guys, he's that versatile player, gives you rushing upside at quarterback. Saquon had 2 touchdowns, both through the ground and the air. 17 carries on 63 yards, 6 receptions, but out for the next few weeks. Really unfortunate situation there. A guy that's just electric, when he plays and that sort of thing.
We did touch on his injury, so I guess we can just revisit just for a second. At first, you fear that it's going to be a high ankle sprain. It is not. It's a regular ankle sprain, so he will be able to recover from this. High ankle sprains are usually much more severe in terms of just recovery and
when
being
you come
able
back
to sustain like the level that you had beforehand. Right. So great to see that it's just, I mean, if he was like Barkley's a guy that's bounced back from injury and been great. So like, dude, that just kind of would have been like pretty depressing.
Yeah.
But it's good news.
Right. So receiving wise, Darren Waller, big day for him. 8 targets, paced the team. 6 receptions, 76 yards. So good day from him. I know that's your guy, tight end 4 on the season right now. So he's about the only bright spot in the receiving area for the Giants right now. Although, I mean, Hyatt had 2 targets. He did see that 58-yard bomb. So 2 receptions, 89 yards. And Isaiah Hodgins, 4 receptions, 40 yards, came away with a receiving touchdown. Hodgins is another one of those guys you can swap out with one of your lower bench guys if you want to, just some of those guys that circulate around. Jalen Hyatt, he's not the worst stash, really. Like, he's an explosive player, so, I mean, there's probably going to be a few weeks where he gets, like, 4 receptions, 100 yards and a touchdown, something like that.
Yeah.
But on a week-to-week basis, it's going to be really hard to predict how he does. It's just hard to find a way to get him in your lineup. Is how I see it. But Arizona, Josh Dobbs, solid day. 228 yards and a touchdown. So he's playing a lot better than a lot of us expected, certainly Carter and I. James Conner, though, doing exactly what we wanted to see in order for him to have fantasy relevance. 23 carries, 106 yards and a touchdown. No other running back had more than 2 carries.
He was fun to watch, dude. He was playing bully ball in that first half.
That's what he does. So, like, I mean, I'm just really, like, that's what you want to see if you're a James Conner owner. That's the type of game he plays. If he sees the volume, he's typically pretty good with it. Finds a way to get it done in the fantasy realm. Receiving-wise, Zach Ertz, 6 receptions, 56 yards. Your guy, unfortunately, you had to trade him away. Did get Lockett, though, so not too upset about that.
Had his 8 targets.
Yeah, had his 8 targets, just like Carter was telling you guys. So if he's still on your waiver, he's got to be the number 1
tight end
waiver wire.
100%.
Him and Laporta. You got to go get them guys. If they're still on your waiver wire and you don't have an established tight end, please go get them.
Zach Ertz is a guy you can play any week you want.
Yes. I'm honestly slightly more confident in him than I would be Laporta. Maybe.
I think so. Just
in terms of volume, Zach Ertz is going to see more, I feel like, on a week-to-week basis.
You know what you're getting from Zach Ertz, and it's good. It's how it's always been.
Right. Marquise Brown, guys, 6 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown, 10 targets. So he's the lead guy doing what we wanted to see out of him. I do want to give a shout-out to Michael Wilson. I mentioned him in one of our videos. Obviously, didn't touch on him much. Not trying to take credit for anything. He did have 3 receptions on 56 yards. So he's kind of. I did mention him being one of those intermediate, deep ball type of receivers. So he's someone to keep an eye on. Not really sure how to use a waiver on him. I think there's more valuable things to keep that waiver for. He's someone to keep an eye on throughout the season, though. Rondale Moore, underwhelming game, only 1 reception. Giants came out on top, though, in an exciting game.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs looked like a decent quarterback.
He looks like a legit quarterback.
He does.
Like he belongs. It's not like he just looks goofy and awful going out there, you know?
Yeah. Just unfortunate that Arizona completely fell apart. I mean, that was probably the worst going to New York. Probably the worst start to a season imaginable. They gave up 58 straight points.
I think it was 60.
Well, 40 for Dallas, right?
Yeah, 20 for...
Okay, so yeah. My maths was off.
This guy can't do the math.
60 straight points to 0. I mean,
that's mind-boggling.
I think it just speaks to how good of a coach Brian Daboll is to keep your guys engaged, keep them hopeful, and then to actually spark that comeback. Bittersweet with Saquon.
Yeah,
but
I'm interested to see how this Thursday night game goes. I mean, obviously,
they're gonna get wrecked.
Yeah. Anyways. Moving to Big D.
We did touch on Breida, right, already?
Yes.
And we talked about them a little
He was in the news. And you touched on him.
Yeah, so just in case this is in a different video, Breida.
The 3rd time.
Stay away from him. Stay away from the Giants running backs. Saquon will be back soon. And they have good matchups in the next 2 weeks after this Thursday night game. Just
not this week.
Unless we see something really big, like say Breida gets 90% of the snaps, then I think you can go ahead and pick him up.
Agreed.
But I'm staying away from them this week.
So moving to Big D, the Jets camp is visited.
Bro, why do you keep calling them?
It's the Big D, bro. What's weird about that?
Nothing.
All right. The Jets visited, got stomped. Really what we expected. I will say I was wrong on my Dak Prescott bust prediction. 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, played a very clean game, 14 rushing yards. So solid game out of Dak. Did well against a tough New York defense. Tony Pollard saw the volume we love to see, 25 carries and 8 targets. So a lot of opportunity for him. 7 receptions on 37 yards, 72 rushing yards. Didn't find pay dirt, but still had a great output. CD Lamb. Woo! 13 targets, 11 receptions, 143 yards. Honestly, one of my studs of the week, dude. He looked good in all facets of the receiving game. You're excited if you're a CD owner. Exactly what you want to see. I mean, he was great. Like watching it, I love, like I'm a Redskins fan, but I love CD Lamb. He's just one of the most talented receivers in my opinion. He's fun to watch. Can do it at all levels of the field. Just a very talented guy. So he had a great output this week. 25 points. New York side of things, not so good.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson
saved his day,
but only 2 receptions. I mean,
on 8 targets.
Dude, it's
against. Okay, it was against a tough, like, I don't know how much stock to put into it. Like I'm not trying to say like he's gonna be really good or anything, but I mean they play New England next week too, which is not a good matchup for them historically and just the situation they're in right now.
Mm.
So I mean it's gonna be another rough week. Obviously, I guess you start him seeing 8 targets and the ability he has to take ball Pater at any given moment.
Yeah.
You got to have him in your lineup.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one thing if he had 4 targets and you say he saved his day with a touchdown,
Right.
but I think that Garrett Wilson with 8 targets can get a touchdown and has the potential to break out that play. Like that wasn't an anomaly play. That's just him being that good.
Also, small shout out to Tyler Conklin, 5 receptions, 50 yards. Could be a streaming option. Would like to see a little more of that develop. What that looks like with him and Zach Wilson. So Conklin's, I find him to be a talented player.
Yeah, he was solid.
I like when he gets the opportunity, he's good. In my opinion,
he was solid with Wilson last year.
Yeah.
So just another one of those guys you kind of throw in the mix.
Right. Yeah.
Play the matchups.
The running back situation, guys, awful. Not going to give you any type of stats. Just was not good. Breece Hall heard him pissed off after the game. I expect to see an uptick in his usage. I think he's pissed off. He wants the ball. He's the best player on the offense, minus Garrett Wilson, maybe even. I mean, they're pretty neck and neck in terms of talent, but Breece Hall, guys, I know it's very disappointing. If you played him, do not, like, I don't want to tell anyone to start or sit him, but, like, go. I want to lean towards saying start him because you don't want to like sit a guy like this and then he has a great game and then you're like, I'm an idiot, you know?
Right. I mean, yeah, you mentioned already that Dallas defense is looking like it was supposed to and how probably even better than that. I mean, behind Tyreek Hill, they're the highest scoring fantasy player right now. So like
that's crazy.
I mean, they're doing it right now. And Breece Hall was a victim of that. But, yeah, he tweeted out 4 football emojis.
Yeah.
Like, he's pissed off. 4.
He wants the ball.
4?
Yeah.
4.
No.
You can't find a way to get Breece Hall, the guy that just had an insanely great game for you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
4.
And they weren't even in that negative of a game. Like, halftime it was 18-10, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Like, he's got to get the ball more than that.
Oh, how are we going to beat this Dallas team? Let's just give it to Zach Wilson to throw 27 times and run Breece Hall 4.
Not acceptable at all. But it's going to be hard to play those Jets players at the right time moving forward. Obviously, those 2 guys are the only guy. I mean, Dalvin Cook maybe moving forward. He doesn't really excite me. I don't really like him that much. But Breece Hall and Wilson, guys, keep him in your lineup. You got to take the good with the bad. Moving to Mile High, Washington came in. Took the W, baby. As I said in the intro, you can give me crap about the pass interference or non-pass interference call later. We can chop it up. Sam Howell, solid day from him. Only saw 11 incompletions on 39 attempts, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great day from him. The stud of the game was certainly Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
18 carries.
He's been great.
Yeah, he's number 3 running back in PPR leagues. 18 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. Even saw 2 receptions for 42 yards, guys. Great game out of him. Really disappointed with Antonio Gibson, though, so far, what I've seen from him. Just not getting the opportunity. That fumble in the first game obviously doesn't help him. Only saw 5 total opportunities, although he did see 3 for 44 in terms of receiving. He obviously has that receiving upside. I think when we see a game where he scores a touchdown, it's going to be a great game from him. But outside of that, it's kind of hard to play him right now. On the schedule, we do have Buffalo next week. Not looking to start Gibson. Robinson stays in your lineup just because of the brand of ball that Washington wants to play. We know Ron Rivera likes to pound the rock. Robinson's going to see the touches, obviously.
Yeah, they're at almost a 50-50 split last week. So it's just whether or not Antonio Gibson gets the touches that gives you the touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've heard people talk about dropping him. I wouldn't exactly go do that. No. I would keep Gibson. Yeah. I mean, unless you're picking up a Kyron Williams, a Jerome Ford.
And if Gibson's the worst guy that you can drop for them.
Right.
Like, I would do everything to drop someone far less valuable, you know, like if you have an extra defense or something.
Yeah.
Good point. But moving to the receiving side of things, McLaurin, big bounce back game. Even though, you know, He saw the healthy dose of Surtain. Did you see the touchdown catch?
Mm-hmm.
Whew. I feel like he catches every contested ball.
Yeah.
He's insane. Dude.
He's a great receiver.
5 receptions, 54 yards, touchdown. Great day from him. What all of us wanted to see, whether we're owners, Redskins fans, Terry McLaurin fans, whatever. Great game from him. Outside of that, though, not much. No other receiver did much of anything. Like Dotson, 3 for 22, De'Ami Brown, 3 for 25, and Curtis Samuel, 3 for 19. Samuel saw 1 rush for 13 yards. So outside of that, guys, pretty murky. I feel like McLaurin has a higher outlook season long. Dotson could be a hard guy to gauge week to week, I feel like. Although I'm not necessarily out on starting him every week. Like, he's a fringe flex play to me right now.
Yeah, I think this was just hard. I mean, I had Dotson being a good start this week. I actually recommended him as a start over him and Zay Flowers was kind of like a toss-up. I think that Zay Flowers was the go-to guy and will be headed down the line. Right. I think
I like him season long more than Dotson.
Yeah, and the only reason that was because you didn't know how Flowers would be without Andrews. Right. So we already talked about the Baltimore game, but that's a little element that we didn't add in. Andrews is there. Flowers is still the guy.
Yeah. So Denver side of thing, guys, Russell Wilson saw a statistical game, not great in terms of like what we actually saw. Now he did get sacked 7 times in Washington D, baby. 308 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, 56 yards on the ground. So I had a great fantasy day if you started him. But just didn't look good. Javonte Williams still getting the opportunity. I know he didn't have a great output, 44 yards on the ground, 14 through the air with 2 receptions, so not a great day from him. But he saw no other running back had more than 1 rush. So, like, that's very encouraging. It's just going to be a matter of them establishing control of the game, getting Javonte more touches overall. Receiving, Marvin Mims, obviously the really long touchdown for 60 yards and then another, 53-yarder. So he had a good day. Yeah. He was very efficient with his touches, although he only saw 2 targets and converted on both of them. Cortland Sutton, 5 for 66, led the team in targets. So Sutton, guys, I feel like he's not the flashiest flex play, but if you have to play him, I feel like you know the type of volume you're getting opportunity. He's a high conversion receiver, like he's going to catch the ball. Like I said, not the flashiest, but he scored a touchdown week 1. He can still get it done without a touchdown which is encouraging. Just like I said, guys, I'll leave it at that. Not the flashiest flex play.
Yeah, I think you can flex him. Someone has said that you've been able to flex. It's actually very disappointing. I don't think that Russell Wilson and Sean Payton are going to be really what we thought. I mean, that touchdown really saved Russell Wilson's day, and they just don't look that great, honestly. I mean, from a statistical standpoint, it does look good, but watching Russell Wilson doesn't look that great, and I don't know. I'm just Denver, like,
it's meh. It's just not.
I would
it's not
stay
exciting.
away from him now if you could. Jerry Jeudy, I think.
He had 5 receptions for 3 receptions and 25 yards. So it's just not encouraging all around. They play Miami next week too. Don't know if that would have helped them in terms of a negative game script, which is what I would foresee, but also against a good defense. But that's what we saw with Washington. So, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where if you have to play him, but not overly excited about it.
Jeudy will be going up against Howard next week as well.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So, Sunday night game, guys. Miami walked into New England, walked out with the W. Tighter game, though, than what most of us expected. New England brought it on in the 4th quarter, was not able to get it done, though. Tua, not a major output, 249 yards, touchdown, and an interception. Carter's boy, Raheem the Dream Mostert, excuse me, had he stole the night, really. 18 carries, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that.
Mustard. Raheem the Dream Mustard.
Mustard. Right. So Salvin Ahmed was the next closest guy with 3 carries. Devon A-Chain was healthy, saw 1 carry, 1 reception. You could pick him up. Not like super great about it, but I think later in the season, he's someone that can really turn up in that offense.
Yeah, Mustard has been a guy that also like gets injured a lot.
Right.
So
it's just one of those
he's got
things.
that upside.
Maybe get ahead of it before the crowd does, Receiving wise, so Jalen Waddle, guys, someone I want to touch on, has not had major output. Seeing solid targets, saw 6 targets, 4 receptions, 86 yards. Another one of those guys that's just very efficient with his touches, so saves his days through that. And if he finds, I feel like once he finds pay dirt, that game's gonna be like, oh, Jalen Waddle, he's back, blah blah blah. So keep him in your lineup, guys. He did have a slight injury, I believe, going into the season. He's also he's progressing through concussion protocol.
Yeah, he got smacked.
Okay. So guys, keep an eye on that. Seeing a lot of concussions right now. Hope these guys are okay. That's what's most important, first and foremost. But keep an eye on them through your lineup if you have these guys. Concussions are tricky. Usually you hear about them like in different time frames, whether it's 2 days before the game, 3 days before the game, or literally like leading up to game time. So just keep an eye on it. Have a backup plan in place, as we always say. Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, 9 targets, 5 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Saved his day with that touchdown, in all honesty. New England was playing like 3 safeties over top the entire like that's why Mostert has such a big game.
Mm-hmm.
They were not allowing Tyreek or Waddle to beat them deep. That's just the game. If they were gonna lose, it was gonna be the way that we saw them lose.
That's how Belichick does it. Yeah. He doesn't let the best thing.
He's gonna find your best player, your strength, and eliminate it.
Yeah, Tyreek's never had 100 receiving yards against Bill Belichick.
Yeah. So that's just what it is. But Tyreek Hill, guys, made it work. If you're a Hill owner in fantasy, so he's a guy that's arguably the best receiver in the game.
That touchdown he had too was like such a perfect scheme.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at when I saw the play, I noticed 2 guy motioning, 2 people over there, and the guy playing the inside coverage. I mean, the people that analyze football deeply and have played professional, they can describe this to you a lot better than I can. But I did notice that, and I was thinking, if they were to take away that guy on the outside,
the corner floated out with the guy that motioned, and then Kyle Duggar, the safety, was playing inside leverage against Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
a safety who's not nearly fast enough. I mean, no one's fast enough to keep up with Tyreek.
That's way too much space.
Yeah.
So, if you were to imagine that other guy out, you're like, what are they doing right now from the Patriots' point of view? But the scheme that they ran, the way that they took away that outside guy to allow that space for Tyreek Hill, I mean, that's all day, every day.
So, Patriots side of things, Mac Jones, not a great day, guys. A touchdown, an interception, 231 yards. Did see 42 attempts in a low-scoring game. So, I think the volume is to be had for Mac Jones in this offense, as well as that goes for the receivers and running backs. Ramondre, 15 carries, 50 yards, and a touchdown. But Mac Jones, not pushing for him on the waivers. Matchup-based guy, does play the Jets next week. Could be a rough day. But Ramondre, picking up that touchdown is huge for him. Haven't seen him get it going on the ground yet. Only 3.3 yards per carry this week. Had a rough week last week. But he gets the touches. He's a good player. I'm not worrying about him at all. 3 targets, 10 receptions. Devontae Parker. So I'll touch on Hunter Henry first. Big game from him again, guys. 6 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Almost duplicated what he did last week. So great game from him. Great work from him. Obviously, go pick him up at this point. Just fantasy sort of things. I feel like he's going to disappoint next week. I feel like there's got to be a game where he just drops off.
Yeah.
But if he keeps seeing the targets, I really like it. And if we see the volume stay steady in this offense, 42. I mean, I don't know what the exact stats are for Jones, but he's got to be up there with Stafford in terms of attempts. But saw Devontae Parker come back and take over that lead receiving role with 8 targets, 6 receptions, and 57 yards. Kendrick Bourne, big week last week, only had 4 receptions for 29 yards, albeit led the team in targets with 9. So something to keep an eye on. I don't really like trying to roll with New England wide receivers in fantasy. It just doesn't seem to mix well.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. 1, 2, 3, 5 players over 6 targets or more. So it's like there's not going to be a clear-cut guy there that you think is going to be the go-to. Gesicki did play a lot when they were down, so I think Hunter Henry, because he has good receiving upside, Hunter Henry's going to be the better actual tight end. But yeah, as you said, it's going to be a thing where he's I mean, throughout his career, he shows flashes.
Yeah.
It's not like consistent.
Moving to Carolina, guys. New Orleans came in, took the W as both you and I expected. But not quite the showing we expected from Derek Carr. Very underwhelming.
Yeah.
21. I mean, I know you were
He's the reason
talking about him more so because you picked him up, but I was also just as high on him as you were. I thought it was going to be a real exposition from him, but underwhelming performance, 228 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. So obviously not a great fantasy output. Taysom Hill saw 9 carries for 75 yards. I swear if they start with this dude, you know where I'm going, but I'll leave that.
He's going to get a lot of work next week.
So yeah, Jamal Williams left early with a hamstring injury. Didn't see him after that. Tony Jones though, 12 carries, 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you need someone this week, is that who you're rolling with?
He's one of my tight ends. He's probably not my top waiver.
Tony Jones.
Oh, sorry. I was still thinking about Taysom Hill.
This guy in Taysom Hill, dude.
Yeah. I mean, dude, 9 carries last week. I think that they're just going to use him again.
Yeah.
And Tony Jones did get the touchdowns, but it's going to be him and Taysom Hill. So it's going to be
Taysom Hill, dude. I'm so over this guy.
He's one of my tight end guys. I don't know how he's still listed as a tight end. It kind of shocks me, but yeah, Tony Jones, like, I'm in absolute desperation next week. It's either like him or Elijah Mitchell. Yeah. So I might even just go pick up Latavius Murray.
Bro, that's not the worst thing you can do. Honestly, that's like, it's funny because we joke about it, him always being a viable option one way or another.
Yeah.
That's not the worst
He's
option.
going to get the looks inside the 5.
Yeah.
So him and Damian Harris.
He plays the Commanders.
If it's Murray that week, then
yeah, right.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Jones going to be iffy. Taysom Hill's going to see a lot of runs. Tony Jones is going to see some of that if Jamal Williams is still out.
Right.
And then also they could, if they got that rookie Kendre Miller, if he's able to
healthy,
be activated, he'll get some run.
Right.
And then Kamara coming back the week after. So, I mean, I'm not like excited to pick up Tony Jones or anything like that. No long-term fantasy value.
Yeah, not at all.
So
receiving side of things, Olave dominated. 11 targets, 6 receptions, 86 yards, guys. We both liked him coming in. You're an Olave owner, so that feels good.
Dude, that wasn't exactly so nice.
Yeah. Wasn't exactly the stack of the week that we were both looking for.
Yeah.
But Olave, guys, had a great week. Rashid Shaheed.
I mean, he was all right. Yeah.
Who, Carr?
No, Olave.
Oh, yeah. Olave was 6 for 86. Points. Yeah. So 14.6 points on 11 targets. That's what you want to see. If he scores a touchdown, that's 20 points right there. So, you know.
He should have, too.
Good week,
He got really close, too.
Rashid Shaheed only saw 4 targets, so third behind Olave and Thomas, but converted on all of them for 63 yards. So he's another one of those guys just efficient with his touches. He's going to, like, I like him. I think he's a great flex play against great matchups. Like, that's how I view him. I did not have him in my lineup this week, but he's gonna put up points. Like, his points per touches basis is gonna be great. Certainly roster him again, guys. He's another one of those guys. If he's not rostered in your league, go get him right now. He's gonna be viable. Especially if Michael Thomas gets injured again, he slots in as that number 2 guy. Speaking of Michael Thomas, another classic showing. 7 receptions, 55 yards, nothing spectacular, but had 9 targets. And we're seeing him do the work that we're used to seeing Michael Thomas put up. So that's good. Jawan Johnson, guys, was a bust this week. 2 receptions for 13 yards on 3 targets. He's a streamer guy, more of a mid tight end 2. Going to have to see him carve out his role. You're going to have to pick your games with him.
He's another guy you just throw in the mix of streamers.
You just have to, but like he's just not, you know.
You're not excited to play
him. You got to hit on it. You got to hit on it when you do.
Yep.
Carolina, guys, Bryce Young, solid game out of him, low output, did have the touchdown, no turnovers, so that was really good. Or he had a fumble. I just think about interceptions when talking about quarterbacks, but clean game from the pocket. but not a crazy output. Miles Sanders, guys, underwhelming. We warned against that going against this Saints front, who is historically great. Did see 14 carries though. The next closest was Chuba for 2. So he has the role that you and I both like, and he saw 5 targets.
5 targets, yeah.
So like coming to the season, we were like, okay, we know he's going to get the workhorse role. That's what you and I had projected for him. Is he going to see the targets? Because we didn't see that in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen it so far.
Yeah.
I think he had 6 last week, if I'm not mistaken. 5 this week, guys. So that's really good to see.
And also, you saw Chuba come in more when they needed to pass, when obvious passing downs. But if
the fact he's still seeing targets outside of that is encouraging.
Yeah.
So Thielen, your boy, big game from him.
My boy.
He is your boy. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Big week from him. Good stuff. I think he's
2-point.
Yeah, and the 2-point. So he's the number 1 in that offense in terms of receiving. Really low output, not a notable output from anyone else. Although I will say Jonathan Mingo had 8 targets. Didn't really do much with it, but something to keep an eye on. I would roster him in your league as your very last guy on your bench. Definitely not opposed to that.
I like him. They brought him and Bryce Young just holistically to grow together in the league. Thielen is not going to be there forever. So Mingo, I like it towards the latter parts of this year once they figure out how they use Bryce Young most efficiently. And they're going to try to work Jonathan Mingo in to develop with him. So him seeing 8 targets is actually very exciting for me.
Yeah. So moving to the second Monday night game, guys. Pittsburgh took home the W in a really weird game against the Browns. I'm going to come out and say this. Deshaun Watson stinks, dude.
Yeah.
He's just not, I don't know, man. He's just not good. Looking at the QBR right now, 16.5. He's just nothing good about him, man. I just have nothing good to say about him.
He's not even good. He's not even throwing it close in some of his.
It's really weird. He's trying to do way too much. I don't know if it's, to me, I feel like the way I'm going to diagnose this is yes, it falls on whatever's wrong with him, but also I feel like the meshing of the scheme they're trying to implement in a run-heavy offense, whereas Watson's whole career, going even back to Clemson, has been spread offense. We're going to dime the ball. In Houston, they had Will Fuller, Hopkins. I don't know. It just doesn't seem the right fit, but it's like they are forced to make it work because of the contract situation, trading 3 first-round picks.
$230 million guaranteed.
Gosh, bro. I don't get it. But guys, story of the night, Nick Chubb out. Jerome Ford picked up, had a great game. Obviously had the 69-yard rush. Outside of that, 15 carries for 37 yards. So he's a good back. Number 1 waiver wire pickup, we would both say. He's going to be the lead guy in that offense, in a run-heavy offense, as we just mentioned. So he's the guy to go get if you have that number 1 waiver priority. Yeah, I love him. Amari Cooper, our guy.
Yep.
10 targets, 7 receptions, 90 yards, in spite of Deshaun Watson being trash. So Cooper and Keenan, we're seeing it, baby.
Yeah.
Seeing it.
I mean, it's not surprising to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
These are guys I was so sure on that they were going to return ADP. It wasn't even funny. And
yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what they're doing because, Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen in the 3rd and 4th round is ridiculous.
4th round ADP. Can you imagine that? Nope.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just going back to how bad Deshaun Watson is, that's just a tragic situation. And I think we can see one of 2 things happen. Either the offensive coordinator changes what he wants to do and caters it to Deshaun Watson, which I don't see happening. Or Deshaun Watson sucks all season, which I do see happening. Also, Jerome Ford's the back there. They could. There's talks about
reuniting between them. Hunt. Oh, and
Kareem Hunt, but he's also linked to Cam Akers.
Yes.
I don't know how that's going to work if Cam Akers were to come. I would assume kind of like a split, but more focused on Ford.
Right.
Obviously he played well, so there's nothing discouraging about Ford.
Yeah,
we'll see receiving work.
I'll reiterate it, guys. Kyron Williams, Jerome Ford, the 2 running backs, 2 waiver wire guys. Top 2 you can throw Puka Nacua and Nico Collins in there.
If they're still out
Yeah,
there.
if they're still out there, those are the guys to go get that we love. Amari Cooper, David Njoku, 4 receptions for 48 yards on 4 targets. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just not excited of anyone except Amari Cooper in that offense, like with Watson being as bad as he is. It's just not good.
Receiving wise,
Yeah.
certainly. Yeah, and Njoku, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
He's kind of doing what we
Talented
always say
player,
from him.
but in a crappy offense.
Yeah, well,
So moving to Pittsburgh, guys. Underwhelming offensive performance yet again. I'll say this in a second, but Kenny Pickett, 222 yards on 50% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He made one really good throw and then would make one really poor throw where it's like, how do you miss that, bro?
yeah.
So, I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and this is what I'm going to lead into talking about Najee. San Fran, Cleveland, 2 really good defenses, especially those defensive fronts are really good.
Yeah.
Control those, they control the line of scrimmage. So Najee Harris, guys, 10 carries for 43 yards, saw a 21-yard scamper, and 1 reception for 0 yards on 3 targets. Jaylen Warren obviously wasn't even as effective as Najee was on the ground, which is, not his game anyways. But Jaylen Warren saw 4 receptions for 66 yards on 6 targets. So Warren, I think, has flex playability, potential, not really slotting him in there right now just because of how sputtery that offense looks right now. But he does have receiving. He does have a role. He does a defined role. And this is my thing with Najee. I'm a Najee owner, guys. Drafted him in the 3rd round. Regretting that as of now. Going against Oakland. If they, as an offense, and for me specifically Najee, if they don't get things right against this Oakland defense, who we just saw get torched by so many people from Buffalo, if they don't get things right, I don't know.
I think we see a good game from the Steelers offense.
Obviously, I'm projecting a bounce back week from them. It's just like, dude, what's going on? I don't know. It just doesn't. It looks like no improvement from last year.
Yeah, I mean, as you said,
2 great,
really tough matchups.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what is going on is George Pickens.
That's what's going on.
Yeah,
that catch was sick.
Yeah, and then he did that leap into the guy. I mean, he was just
dude. What
was he doing?
That was crazy. No, he's just an electric. I don't know. He doesn't give a crap out there.
Yeah, he's exciting to watch.
Yeah,
so,
it's George Pickens' world, and we're in it. That's how it is.
George Pickens is a guy you can play. I think we start to see better output from Kenny Pickett. Pat Freiermuth, very disappointing day. I stick with him. He's one of the better tight ends that you will have. I mean, not uber excited to have him on your team, but someone that you can start week to week.
Yeah.
Especially now that the matchups are going to get a little bit lighter, especially in Vegas.
All right. So no one saw higher than 1 reception besides Allen Robinson at 2, and then Jaylen Warren and George Pickens at 4. Pickens had 10 targets. So the lead guy there, we know Deontay Johnson is out for a little bit. Not much else to say about that Steelers offense, just not looking good. Looking for a big bounce back week from them in Oakland. I keep saying Oakland, dude, in Vegas, against Vegas.
Combined QBR of that game, 18.8.
Yeah, I saw that. Awful. Just awful. I mean, pitiful.
So,
but
there's that.
Yeah, so that wraps up our Sunday/Monday night review, guys.